Hey, hope you're having a fantastic day. Now let's go over my May TBR. I have quite a few different books here that I don't know if I'm gonna get to them all, but I'm excited for them all, and that's all that matters most, right? Like, maybe it's a little advantageous to have quite so many books, because I have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books, and that's not including other books that will probably come up because I'm a mood reader when I want to read, but you know what, that's okay. So let's start with the first one. I just picked this one up at the library, and it is The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. Now, I think this was popular like a year or two ago, and I just never ended up getting to it, but I happened to go into a new library this last week because I haven't been there since I just moved a few months ago, and so I was like, oh, you know what, let's just go check it out. I got a new library card, and it was super fun, but I like went and checked out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw this, and I had to snag it. And so this is pretty much, from my understanding, a Mulan retelling, something to that way, shape, or form. I believe the main girl is about to get sold off from her father because he's like addicted to opium, and so she kind of takes her fate into her own hands. She cuts her hair, whatever, makes herself look like a boy, and then she proceeds to go join the Imperial Army, and things kind of ensue from there. I believe this is a duology. I feel like that seems right. I don't know if the second one is out, but I don't know. I remember seeing this on the shelves a lot, and I love the fact that this one has sprayed edges. Like, I love that. But I'm super excited about this book. This is something that I really enjoy. Of course, this is like my type of book, but this is what I've been wanting to get to. I have been wanting to read like more like Asian inspired fantasies. I feel like we get a lot of UK fantasies and a lot of Fae, but I'm honestly, I feel like I'm reading so many Fae books, it's almost too many Fae books. Like, I'm getting kind of tired of like that aspect. So I'm really interested to get back into this this world and see what it's about, because I did read, what's it called, the Diababad trilogy a few months ago, and that's like Egyptian type vibes. I loved that. I really like the different aspects and different cultures that like it brings into the writing style, so I'm really excited to get into this. The next one is, now since it's like spring going into May, but like almost summer, so I'm doing like a soft launch into romances. Okay, just a soft launch, just a little touchdown, maybe a few here and there, kind of break up some of my fantasies, but just a soft launch, right? Like, it's May, you could have a little bit of romance in here, but it is Battle of the Bookshops. Now, honestly, again, I got this one from the library the other day. I've never heard of it. I don't know that I've heard anybody ever talking about it, but I thought it just, like, because it was like this, the name just intrigued me, the title, like, the Battle of the Bookshops. So, from my understanding, this one is about, like, two rivaling people. It's a little bit like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing going on, but her great aunt can't take care of her bookshop or whatever anymore, and it's been in the family for generations. And so our main character leaves her big, huge publishing job in London and comes home to work this bookshop and kind of take it over. Comes to find out it's in like derelict, and there's she like owes lots of money on it, and in order to keep the shop she has to like make this huge payment within a few months, and so she's not sure how she's going to do that. And then in comes our main male character, and I believe our like love interest. He and like her families have been battling for like hundreds of years, and he ends up going and like opening a brand new bookshop right across the street. And so I think that's just kind of what it's about. It's Battle of the Bookshop. I don't know, it seemed cute. I thought the aspects were really fun, and like, who doesn't love reading a book about books? You know, I don't know. Something about this seemed really, really cute, and I think it would be a good, like, soft launch again into summer. So I thought that would be fun. The last one I got from the library is Boudica. Now, PC Cast, who is the author, I loved her, was it the Marked series, the vampire series? Now, that was like my era, like way back in the day. Like, I really enjoyed her writing style, and so I'm super excited to get into this book, especially Boudica. Now, Boudica is, I think this is like a fantasy retelling of like historical kind of fiction kind of thing, because Boudica was a real person. I watched a documentary on her like a few years ago, but pretty much this is during the Roman times, and the Romans are trying to take over the UK and like Britain, and so at the time there's like a bunch of smaller clans, and like that's why they were kind of taken over. But I believe Boudica is the one who unites all the tribes, and she's like the one who fights back against the Romans. And so I think this just kind of details her story, but like, again, very mystical fantasy aspect to it with like magic and things like that. So I've been looking at this one for a while, and I'm so glad I grabbed it. And I don't know, I think it seemed really fun and really interesting, and it just seems something, again, like a soft launch into summer, something still like fighting fantasy vibes, but maybe like not as heavy as some of the other fantasy books that I've got, right? So I think this looks really fun. The next book I have is Valor by John Gwynne. This is the second book in the, what is it called? The Faithful and the Fallen series. Now, the first book is Malice, and I read this last month. Yeah, that sounds right. And I loved it. I super enjoyed it. It was a very, very slow start to that book, but I loved it so much, and I'm feeling ready to get back into this because these are chunky books. It's chunky because there's a lot to get through. There's a lot of different characters, but I really, really enjoyed the storyline. So in Malice, the first book, you kind of follow along a different set of characters, but rewind back 1,000 years. Like, there used to be gods and everything, but at this point in time, all the gods are gone. They don't know why. They've disappeared, and all of the humans have been pushed away, and they have to live in these banished lands along these islands. And so now, fast forward 1,000 years later, now they're getting signs of, like, when maybe the gods aren't gone, there's something going on. All of these giants are not coming down, which they used to fight, are coming into play, and they're, like, coming after the humans, and they don't know why. And then there is some type of, like, prophecy, I guess you could describe it as, or, like, a great fate that's kind of happening. And that's kind of where we, like, left off in the end of book 1, where you got really attached to the characters. You kind of know what's going on in the story because the world is broken and they're trying to fix it because there's too many things going on now. And now that we're following a bunch of these different characters, we're now on a quest to then figure out what to do from there. And so I'm super, super excited. I feel like, I don't know that I explained that correctly, but pretty much it's like Viking inspired. It's got a little bit of a Scottish vibe to it too. I really enjoy the writing style of this. I love all the fighting scenes in it, because sometimes, like, the fighting scenes and, like, the battle tactics, like, go way over my head, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand what's happening, but I really, really enjoyed Malice. It was really, really slow to start, but I will say the slow start really had me so attached to the characters. Like, I feel so ingrained with them. Like, I feel like they're, like, one of my best friends. And so going into this next book, especially after the way the first book ended on not even a bit of cliffhanger, it was a pretty big, relatively big cliffhanger of what's happening now, and of course I really like that, and so I'm super excited to get into this next one. It's a chonker, but I really liked it. I mean, the other one I read in 3 days, so really, like, I can get this done quickly if I so please, but if not, I'll take chunks out of it at a time, you know. The next, I will say, I have been chomping at the bit to write this. I don't write. Chomping at the bit to read this. This is a book of the month club. I believe this was one of my March picks. I believe this is not sponsored or anything, but yeah, this was I believe one of my March picks. It's the first time I had gotten book of the month. I was really excited, and I keep hearing really good things about this, but I wanted to wait again until more summer for romances, and again, May, soft launch, so I'm really excited about this one. So this one follows our main character. Her father died, and he was some type of fantastic writer, and he was on, like, the last book of this, like, most loved series, and after he died, the publisher kind of comes to our female main character and, like, hey, we want you to finish this book, like, let's figure this out. So he and her go to Ireland, which I believe is where the father lives, in this, like, middle nowhere Ireland thing, and she and the publisher are, like, putting together all of the notes and trying to finish out this book, and then love ensues, from what I'm understanding, obviously, how to write a love story, and I don't know, it just seems like a really fun, interesting story. I think it's gonna be cute. I heard the vibes are really good. I mean, it's based, I'm pretty sure it's Ireland. Let me check. Yeah. It says on the Ramshackle estate on the Irish coast. Yeah, I'm not crazy. I'm pretty sure it's Ireland. And so I think it's going to be really scenic, and I think it's going to be interesting. I love the cover of this. And something about this is finally calling me in again. I've literally been chomping at the bit. I think this is I think this is my most excited read, I think, of May, that I'm truly, truly excited for, but I'm really excited to get into this. I'm hoping it's got really good vibes. I've heard nothing but good things so far, people who've already read it, but I just wanted to wait a little bit longer as we get into summer. The next book is Saint. Now, this is part, or like, the prequel of the Fable and Namesake by Adrienne Young. Now, I love Fable and Namesake. That duology will always hold a very special place in my heart. So I was an avid reader all through a kid into high school and things like that. Then I kind of stopped reading during college and grad school. I just ran out of time. And I picked up reading again in 2023. And Fable was the first book I read, like, completely since stopping reading since high school, and I loved it. It would always hold a super special place in my heart, but this is about Saint, her father. So I'm interested to see what's happening, because in Fable, pretty much what happens is her dad is like the pirate lord, the pirate of the kings, and her mother dies. And he just kind of, I think in his grief, ends up just kind of dropping her on an island, says, figure it out, live your own life. And of course, lots of things ensue from there. She's got a very rare special power, and things ensue from there, but she's pretty much taken by pirates. And I really love the love story in that. It's so beautiful. But this follows her dad, Saint, who is the king of the pirates, right? And I'm interested to see the breakdown, number one, of like how he meets his Fable's mother, first of all, how they fall in love, and then how he becomes king of the pirates. I think it's going to be super interesting. I really like Adrienne Young's writing style. And again, with it being, I'm assuming this is a YA since Fable and Namesake are away, the yearning is going to be beautiful. But I'm interested also just to see how, I don't know if it gets to that point in the book, but how it gets to the point where I know he ends up like dropping Fable off on an island and being like, figure it out. And she's only like 15, right? And I want to see his point of view and like how he got to that point. And like, but again, how did he rise to a pirate lord? I don't know, something about that seemed just super, super fun. This has been on my shelf for a while on my TBRs. Would it be the longest on my TBR? Maybe, but probably. But again, this is definitely, I don't think you have to read the Fable story, but I think it's going to add so much more to the Fable story, knowing about his story. But I'm interested in this one. Again, soft launch into summer here, so I'm super excited. And then I do have 2 other books that I'm going to have on Kindle that I am unsure about, that I'm going to get to, because I have a lot of other books that I'm really excited about. Is the first one is I'm going to talk about is The Thorn Queen. Now, this is the second it literally just came out like a few weeks ago. I don't know what series it's a part of, but it's the Rose Bargain book. I enjoyed the Rose Bargain. I think there's a lot that goes on during that book. Like, I'm so intrigued to go into the second book now. So pretty much what happens in the beginning of the first book, The Rose Bargain, we follow along our main character, and it's like Bridgerton-esque vibes, right? We know there are fae. There's only 1 or 2 fae in the world right now. The other live in the fae world, or like the fairyland, whatever you want to call it. And first off, the queen, like 500 years beforehand, had saved the monarch of the UK. And so now, fast forward 500 years later, it's very much, I like how cruel the queen is, and like everybody goes and you can make a bargain with the queen, and she like what do you call it, like, because you make the bargain, like she gets something out of it. It's something so ridiculous if you make a bargain that like you can only turn left, or you have to take all your fingernails, and like for whatever you decide. And so because it's been 500 years later, every girl, like in Bridgerton, when you're coming out to the queen and to the ton, it's exactly what happens. So that's what happens with this main character. She ends up, her family is in like a lot of debt, and she's trying to get out of it. Her sister mysteriously was like lost for a few months, could not remember where she was. And so we're kind of trying to figure out like what happened to her. And then our main character is really just focused on like trying to save the family, because they're kind of like shunned and like ostracized right now. And so we meet the queen. And it's so funny because then things kind of ensue from there. The crown prince ends up being on the market for a wife. And so it's interesting. There's this huge kind of trials and tribulation that ends up happening for his hand. But there's also, because the one I'm talking about is the one who is like up for marriage. He is full fae, but then there's the other son, because she takes king consorts, obviously, because like she lives for hundreds of years and like humans don't. So she takes king consorts, and like he is the son of the king, but not like her. But so he's taking like a bastard son of the realm or royalty, whatever you may have it. But she ends up falling in love with the bastard son, but she's also in line to try and save her family, and she's in this battle to then go and marry the fae king, or like fae prince, who will then be king. It's very interesting, and there's a lot that happens. There's a lot of things that I was really shocked at. I think I gave the first book like a 3.5, 3.75. It was really good, but there's just so much happens towards the end that kind of got really wild. But from what I've heard, the Thorn Queen wraps it all up. And I really liked the Bridgerton aspect to it. I liked kind of the ruthlessness of the Fae. Because again, like, our like evil character is not shown until much later in the series. And I would not have expected that character to like kind of be the bad guy, or whatever you want to call it. And I liked that. I enjoyed it. I loved the twist on it. So I'm excited to finish this series, because it's intriguing, I guess, is the only way to describe it. It's very intriguing. Again, it wasn't the most highly rated book I've ever read, but like I have so many questions I want, or I not even want, I need to have them answered. And so that's what I'm excited to get into. Hopefully The Throne Queen. And the last book that I have on this TBR that I'm hoping to get to, I'm hoping to put in a thing at the library, hopefully I can get it this month, is A Natural History of Dragons. Now, I feel like I've seen this book quite often, and I don't feel like I see a lot of people talking about it or what it's about, but I just find it, I think it's really fascinating. From my understanding, it follows along our main character, who is some type of scientist or doctor of some sort, and she is a dragon naturalist, and she just studies dragons. And so from what I heard, it's pretty much chronicling her just following along these dragons, and like all about them, like more scientific wise, like, oh, what did they eat? What are their mating habits? Like, where do they go for nesting and things like that? Like, she just kind of follows along like a lot of like the anatomy aspects and how they digest, or like whatever, certain things like that. And I think there's a small aspect of romance to these books too. I might be wrong on that, but it just seems so interesting. I think it's very intriguing, the thought process that you would have to go through of like how these dragons like mate, and how and what they choose to eat, and their like behavior patterns. And so I think it's just gonna be a fun twist on that, and I'm excited for it. That one has definitely been on my TBR for a while, and I feel like, again, it's gonna be a good book for Maggie. It's not something too hardcore fantasy, but it's not something that like maybe it's like gonna be ripping. I'm gonna be ripping through the pages. I think it's gonna be a little bit more of a mellow, chill, interesting read, right? Like, oh, I would never have thought of it that way. And so I think it's gonna be a fun one, just to kind of pick up something a little different from what I'm always reading. And again, I think it's gonna be like a treat to myself, right? It's something like not necessarily in my zone, but like it is in my zone, if that makes any sense at all, right? Like, it's technically fantasy and it's got dragons in it, of course, but it's more of a interesting retelling and a little bit more science aspect to it, which I always love a little bit of a science aspect to it. And so I think it'll be fun. I think it's a good pick, but those are my May picks for the month. I'm really excited. I feel like I may have bargained a little bit too much with these, but I'm really excited. I would love to know what you're reading in May, or if I inspired you to read any of these in May. Just let me know down in the comments. I would love, love, love to hear what you're currently reading. And if you have any other suggestions from these book picks that you think I should definitely pick up and read, I would love to know. But I will see you guys on the next one, and happy reading!